Good morning, councillors, good morning, staff, and good morning, guests, and welcome to our Ordinary Council meeting for April. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today and traditional owners throughout the Southern Downs region, and thank them for their continuing stewardship of the country and its waterways, and pay respect to their elders past, present and emerging. Today we have the Reverend Nathan Webb with us to lead us in April.
Good morning, Madam Mayor, councillors, regional council executives, assisting staff and fellow members of the community. My name is Nathan from St Joseph's Catholic Parish. I'm grateful for this privilege to pray with you this morning, taking my turn amongst the fellow Christian Ministers Association of this region. Today I pray for those who have gone before us and for ourselves gathered today. So let us pray. Our help is in the name of the Lord, who made heaven and earth. Many of our brothers and sisters have gone before us to rest in the sleep of peace. We trust that they've been welcomed to their eternal abode. With faith and hope in eternal life, let's remember them in our prayers. Into your hands, Father of mercies, we entrust our deceased brothers and sisters, in the sure and certain hope that together with all who have died in faith, they will rise on the last day. We give you thanks for the blessings which you bestow upon us in this life. They are signs to us of your goodness and of our fellowship with the saints in Christ. We pray for ourselves also, our intentions. May your grace, O Lord, we pray, at all times go before us and follow after us, and make us always determined to carry out good works. May the Lord bless us, keep us from all evil, and bring us to eternal life. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend. Councillors, do we have any condolences today? Councillor Bartley?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'd like to pass on the condolences to the Farrell family. Clifford Farrell passed away on the 24th of March 2025. He was a long-term serving councillor in Warwick City Council. He was an alderman and also a Warwick Shire councillor. In that time he did 29 years in local government and contributed a great deal to the progress of the community through that time. The Warwick Rose City Centre was one of the major constructions done in Cliff's time in serving on the Warwick Shire Council. He was, moreover than a dedicated councillor, he was a dedicated family man. Family very much was a key component of Cliff's life, and that was well and truly demonstrated at his funeral, where all his family passed on their condolences and wishing him well in his passing. So Clifford Farrell, he's an icon of our Warwick community. Even though he was born in Bonshaw, he was certainly part of our community for at least 90 years. So we will surely miss Cliff, as he was affectionately known, and I certainly will miss our conversations we used to have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bartley.
Mayor, thank you. I'd just like to support Councillor Bartley's words in regards to Cliff Farrell. Cliff was an upstanding citizen, that's how I class him, and well known and well respected in the community. I've known the Farrell family for almost all my life, I think, and Cliff was involved with Suburbs Rugby League for many, many years, and where my involvement was as well. And so I still have strong connection with the Farrell family and Cliff's daughters in Warwick as well. So it was very sad to see him pass, but his legacy will be long-standing. Thank you.
Thank you. No? Moving on to attendance and apologies. We have all in attendance and no apologies. The reading and confirmation of minutes. We have a recommendation that the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on Wednesday, 19 March 2025 be adopted. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Richter, thank you, and a seconder, Councillor Pigeon. All in favour? Unanimous, thank you. We have actions from the ordinary council meeting and a recommendation that council receive the report and note the contents. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Dean, thank you, and a seconder, Councillor Haslett. All in favour? Unanimous, thank you. Declarations of conflicts of interest. Do we have any declarations today? Hallelujah. I think this is a momentous occasion. Moving on. We do not have any mayoral minute today. We have no notices of motion. We have no reading and consideration of correspondence or petitions or joint letters. Moving on to portfolio reports. The first portfolio report is actually my own, and we have a recommendation that Council's Vibrant Communities portfolio report be received. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor McDonald, thank you, and a seconder, Councillor Dean, thank you. I'm going to take that report as read unless anyone has any questions. Yes, Councillor McDonald.
Mayor, I don't have any questions, but certainly I note, obviously in the economic development area, that there are still some major improvements required for our sale yards, and we are advocating for that. I'm really glad to see that that has been given priority and noted in your report, certainly with consideration obviously to cover or shade for, if we can, get some funding in that regard. Also, I'd like to say congratulations to the staff on their diligent efforts in regards to governance. That's no mean feat with the amount of policies that we had outstanding from the last term. So I congratulate you all for the work that has been done, and I sincerely mean it. Having a background in policy within the Army, I understand how important it is that these are up to date, and you had a lot of work when you stepped into your positions, or those that haven't but this term. So I congratulate you all. CEO, if you can pass that on. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, all in favour of the recommendation? Unanimous, thank you. And the second portfolio report today is from the Deputy Mayor, and we have a recommendation that Council's Liveable Communities portfolio report be received. Deputy Mayor, I presume you will move that. And a seconder, Councillor Pigeon, thank you. I'll hand over to you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. And I'll also take the report as read, and I do hope that people have taken the time to read it and see firsthand at some of the good work that is happening throughout our region. And in particularly, I did include some photos in my report just to show a little bit more about what's been happening with Willow Tree 37 Women's Support Centre that recently was launched, and what amazing work that they are doing. And also with the Warwick Women's Work Camp. I think that there's probably a lot of people in our region that don't really know much about the Warwick Women's Work Camp, but they do an amazing workload throughout our region, all around the region, wherever possible. And I've added some interesting artwork that they recently did with a little team that they had in Warwick for only a few weeks that they were there, but they have done, I think it's almost 100 of those bins for the Warwick Showground, so that's amazing. So thank you. I hope you do take the time to read it.
Thank you. Councillor McDonald.
Yeah, Mayor, just in regards to you, Deputy Mayor, well done on the report. Warwick Women's Camp, I think that's a fantastic initiative for reskilling and assisting the community, and I'd like to see more constructive programs like this throughout our region. So it was great to see the work that they're doing, in particular the bins. I thought they were great.
Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Dean.
Through you, Mayor, I just wanted to also recognise the Peace Garden in the report, and I am grateful that the staff found the capacity to take that on. I think it's really important to have that tranquil space for people that are coming in and out of hospital, so they can spend time with their family in a nice spot. So.
Thank you, Councillor Dean. Okay. All in favour? Unanimous, thank you. Moving on to item 12.1. We have a recommendation that council adopt the amendments to councillor portfolios included as Appendix A to the councillor portfolio policy PL 136. Do I have a mover for that?
Happy to move.
Councillor, the Deputy Mayor, and a seconder? Councillor McDonald, thank you. Opening that up, councillors, does anyone want to speak for the motion? Okay, in that case, I might briefly speak to the motion, and really what I wanted to say is that under Section 12 of the Local Government Act, Section 12.3, all councillors have responsibilities to ensure that the local government discharges its responsibilities under the Act, achieves its corporate plan and complies with all laws that apply to local governments. To me, the issues of governance, the budget and planning are clearly items which all councillors have responsibilities in respect of. And I think that this amendment ensures that all of us are working on those three items and ensuring that the local government discharges its responsibilities under the Act. Under Section 12.3, we also have the issue of all councillors participating in decision-making for the benefit of the local government area, and with governance and meetings, we are all involved in this. To me, the items of budget and planning could be delegated under a subcommittee in the legislation, but I don't think we are of the size of council where the ratepayer cost of subcommittees is justified at this point in time if you look at the number of planning items that come before us each month. So I think that this rearrangement actually emphasises our responsibilities under the Local Government Act, and for that reason I support it. Does anyone want to speak against the motion? No. Okay, going to a vote then. All in favour? Oh,
Speak about it,
you want to speak? Yep.
not for or against. Just one thing I've noticed again is tourism. It's one of the major economic drivers in our area, and I've noticed, as Cheryl spoke before, Cheryl, you haven't had a lot of experience in that area, and you've actually even said that yourself. I think that we should have a delegate from both areas, the north and the south. I think I should be involved in that area for the south, so they do have some representation. Like I said, it's a massive economic driver for our area, for the Southern Downs.
Yeah, Councillor Wantling, I absolutely agree with you that it is a really important element of our economic development area in tourism. And as we've discussed, the people listed in the appendix are simply the lead councillor, not the only councillor. We have a lot of issues in that list where we work with multiple councillors. I absolutely think that you should remain heavily involved in tourism, as I am as well. I actually am very much involved in the tourism element. And this year we do have the aim of starting to look at a tourism strategy for the Southern Downs, which we will all work on together as a council group. I'm not sure if you were proposing an amendment.
Yeah, I'd like to propose amendment.
An amendment to put tourism in two locations in the table.
To have two people look after it. I think it's fine to say that we can both be involved, but without a name designated, you actually will not be involved. It's up to you to go to these committees or these meetings.
Yeah. Okay, so what's the amendment motion, Councillor Wantling?
I'd like to amend it that there's two representatives for tourism.
So the amendment is that council adopt the amendments to the councillor portfolios included as Appendix A to the councillor portfolio policy PL 136 and
the part where it's got tourism, that there's two people, so myself and Cheryl be representatives.
Okay. Do we have a seconder for that amendment motion? Councillor Bartley, thank you. Okay, I think Councillor Wantling has spoken for the amendment and I have spoken effectively against the amendment. Does anyone else want to speak to the amendment motion?
I'll
Councillor
just
Windle?
say that whilst I may have pointed out when we had further discussions about the portfolios that I may not have a great deal of experience with tourism as a unit, I guess, because I haven't really been heavily involved in organising events. I'm very, very, very supportive of tourism, and it definitely is still a passion to see it proceed. I think that tourism is about our region. I don't particularly think it's about the north or the south. I think that we have to come together as a region, and that's what I would be progressing towards, not just a north or a south. Thank you.
I totally support that.
You've already spoken, Councillor Wantling, so I'm, yes, Councillor Dean?
So I understand where you're coming from, Russell. However, I think that it might look a bit messy, or if there's a couple of people in tourism and there's not a few people with the sale yards or major events or housing, and you know what I mean? Like, I think it just, for me, it seems that if we all have our own designated things, and then like the Mayor was saying, that we can go to all the events, we can have input on these things, because I think it is important that we all have input anyway. And I think it's important to have SDRC as a region and not the north and south. I think we have to steer away from that. We are one region, and I feel like we need to stick to that.
Councillor Bartley?
I'd like to speak for the amendment, and what Councillor Wantling said certainly makes sense, but at the basis of it all, I think it's local knowledge. And you can't beat local knowledge, particularly what Councillor Wantling has, given his interaction and his involvement, particularly in the southern part of our region with tourism. I think it's a very wise move, even though I probably won't support the motion generally. I think I'll endorse the amendment, but I think what he said is right. Councillor Windle would have good local knowledge of the northern end. I have a reasonable amount of local knowledge here, but not to the amount Councillor Wantling would have. And I don't think anyone around the table would have the amount of knowledge that Councillor Wantling's got regarding this area and tourism, with his past history of involvement in lots of organisations.
Thank you. Okay, so if we vote on the amendment motion, all in favour? Councillor Bartley and Councillor Wantling. Those against? Councillors Richters, Dean, McDonald, Pigeon, Haslett, Windle and Hamilton. So the amendment is not passed. We go back to the original motion. Did anyone else who hasn't spoken on the original motion want to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Bartley.
I'll speak against the motion, Madam Mayor. I've seen portfolios come and go in councils, particularly the last one, and again, we're in this room. I don't know how many man hours we've put to discussing portfolios this term. It's ever since the implementation of them. It's been commentary at most meetings, whether we've got it right or wrong, and I don't think you'll ever get it right, personally. And ensuing councillors, if they have portfolios, probably won't, because it's the size of our council. And all councillors, as you quite rightly said, are responsible for passing on issues from the community. That's what we do. We don't say ring portfolio holder so-and-so, I jammed in merit, get it done. I don't go and annoy someone else. So in my opinion, as much as you want to push portfolios, I don't think you'll ever get an impressive result out of them at all.
Councillor McDonald?
I'll agree with Councillor Bartley from the point of view that I think enough man hours have been spent on this. We've gone round and round in circles. I think it needs to move forward right now. I'd like to put the motion, so a procedural motion to put the motion forward now.
Thank you. Councillor McDonald? Can you vote on the procedural motion? Just put the motion. Okay. So putting the motion that we adopt the amendments to the councillor portfolios. Those in favour?
Point of order, Madam Mayor. The procedural motion has to be voted on. So if a procedural motion is moved, the procedural motion needs to be voted on, and then the matter.
Correct.
I think that was right. Okay, all in favour of the procedural motion that the motion be put? That's all except Councillor Richter's, and those against. Councillor Richter's, okay. And putting the original motion, those in favour. We have Councillors Dean, McDonald, Pigeon, Haslett, Windle and Hamilton. Those against. We have Richter's, Wantling and Bartley. Thank you.
Could I call a division on that, please, Madam Mayor?
Absolutely. Councillor Bartley, we record all of our votes for transparency. Moving on to item 13.1. We have a recommendation that Council receive and note the financial performance report as at 31 March 2025. Do I have a mover of that? Councillor Haslett, thank you, and a second to Councillor Pigeon. Does anyone want to speak on that one?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Looking at the capital budget and the year-to-date expenditure, we've only expended 40% of our capital budget. We are now 2 months away from our new financial year. I can't see us expending the next 60% in that time, and yet we're going to put a new capital budget together. These will be classified as carryovers. We can't say we're understaffed, and I don't accept that the weather would be a reasonable excuse for not delivering on the capital if that were to be a reason given, because we went into a reasonably dry summer and we've only had probably the last month or so of damp weather. So I'm curious as to know why we've only been able to deliver 40% or 38.2% of our capital budget, and how we're going to manage probably a 50% carryover.
Thank you, Councillor Bartley. Yeah.
Through you, Mayor, and thanks for the question. As I've disclosed from my commencement here at the start of the year, there was a delay in terms of the commencement of projects. I think I've been really clear about that. So in October, we were able to unblock that and start the project. So we're always starting from behind the scene. In relation to the weather, this report is obviously for March, and we did have effectively about 3 or 4 weeks of rain and disruption and preparation for the cyclone, so it has affected our program. If you see the graph on page 29 of our forecast commitments and actuals, we are still above that line. However, our actuals are below the line, which has been the case a couple of times, and that has been affected by the rain. We've certainly got a big few months. We've got a lot of commitments and expenditure to occur over the next 2 months, and the team are very much focused on that as well. We're starting to look at some carryovers. There will be some carryovers, as with most of the councils. We're trying to minimise that at the moment. There is also a number of multi-year projects in our program where we estimate what is the expenditure for this financial year as opposed to the next financial year. That may have to be adjusted depending on some commencement times, but all in all, we're proceeding as quickly as we can, and there is some large orders and expenditure that will be occurring over the next 2 months.
Thank you. Thank you, General Manager.
Just another comment to follow on, particularly in the loan report, the borrowings report, $10.8 million still owing. And if you look at it, the CBD redevelopment that occurred in the early 2000s of Warwickshire is still sitting there. So it demonstrates it takes a long time to pay things off once you take a loan, but it's refreshing to see. We probably haven't had a loan since 2013-14. So the councils after 2014 have been relatively conservative.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bartley. I think Councillor McDonald had her hand up first, Councillor Richters, and then I'll come to you.
I was just about to agree with Councillor Bartley. I concur with his comments. The main thing of this report that stuck out to me was the 38.2%. We're close to 40%, so I felt as though we were very much behind where we should be. Where we're moving towards the end of the financial year, the new financial year coming in. So thank you for the clarification. I do appreciate that.
Councillor Richters?
Yeah, I concur about the concerns about the capital budget. And I'd just like to ask Mayor if we can, maybe as a question on notice, have a list of capital projects which we anticipate at this point in time will be not completed this financial year.
I'll take that on notice. Thank you, Councillor Richters.
Otherwise, I think this is the first time this year that the revenue has been, that the income and expenses and revenue have been almost the same, I think. In previous meetings this year so far, we were tracking quite well, so that I'm guessing that means that we're now kind of back on track effectively as far as operational expenses go.
Is that a
I would
question?
suspect it's a question that you're gonna have to ask.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm not quite, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, so in previous meetings this year, our operational expenditure has been kind of ups and downs, but this seems like the first time it kind of has almost come out as equal.
Okay,
It's time.
thank you.
Is it a timing thing or is it
It's a, yeah, sorry, through you, Madam Mayor, it's a timing thing and it's largely because the race notices have just gone out.
cool? And in regards to the borrowings, I note that Councillor Bartley said it was 10.8. I actually think that the good message from that is the fact that we've decreased borrowings by nearly $2 million since we came to council. I believe it was 12 point something when we came to council, so that actually shows that we are actually paying it down.
Sorry. Okay, moving on, we'll put that to the vote. All in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. Item 13.2, we have a recommendation that council receive and note the contents of the operational plan quarterly review, January 2025 to March 2025. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Haslett, thank you, and a seconder, Councillor Dean. Does anyone want to speak to that item? Yes, Councillor Windle.
It's just a question regarding 4.1.1, which is page 11 of the report. I'm just wanting to know if we're still doing some work in the background regarding the long-term solution for the Warwick Visitor Information Centre.
We'll take that on notice.
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor, we are. Excuse me. We're in the process of having a building review done of the current town hall to see what state it is in. That review is still in progress, and once we have that report back, we'll be able to then assess what work may or may not need to be done to the building.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. A question on objective 1.3.3, just with regards to, it speaks about the Club IQ program and saying that that's on track. My question is just, that's working together with the state agencies, how much longer and what does that look like going forward, that program? Because it doesn't really give any detail in there about that.
We'll take that one on notice. Thank you, Councillor Haslett. Okay. No one else, we'll move to a vote on that. All in favour? Unanimous, thank you. Moving on to item 13.3, we have a recommendation that council resolve in accordance with the Local Government Regulation 2012 and Procurement Policy PL FS 010 to identify and directly engage suitably qualified and experienced contractors to complete the WIRAC filtration replacement and upgrade project. Delegate to the authority to the Chief Executive Officer under Section 257B of the Local Government Act 2009 to exercise Section 238 of the Local Government Regulation 2012 to directly engage with contractors to negotiate and execute suitable contracts that deliver a value for money outcome to complete the required works within the approved budget allocation, and delegate authority to the Chief Executive Officer to negotiate variations to any contracts made under item, that should be item 2 above. If you could just change that, Marion, I don't think we need an amendment motion for that. In words and numbers. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Dean, thank you, and a seconder. Councillor Haslett, thank you. Does anyone want to speak for the motion?
Questions, Mayor?
Question, yeah?
It says that under 2 that we're going to do it within the approved budget allocation. What is the current approved budget allocation for this?
$2 million.
$2 million. Councillor Richards.
So, sorry, am I to read into that then if it's over $2 million then that would need to come back to us to make a decision on.
Yes.
Okay.
Anyone else, councillors? No? All in favour of that recommendation? That's all except Councillor Bartley, and those against? Councillor Bartley. Thank you. Moving on to item 15.1. We have a recommendation that the application for realignment of boundaries, 2 lots into 2 lots on land at 11412 Cunningham Highway and Freestone Road, Clintonvale, described as Lot 1 ML 2118 and Lot 2 ML 477, be approved subject to conditions. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Richter, thank you, and a seconder, Councillor Dean. I would like to move an amendment motion on this one. Are you happy for me to do that, Councillor Richter? Would you like to speak for the motion initially, or shall I move the amendment first and then?
I'm happy for you to move the amendment first, Mayor.
Yep, okay. I'm just finding my amendment. It's in relation to condition 2, easements and covenants in relation to the building covenant, the statutory covenant to prohibit construction of buildings with a width of 60 metres along the southern boundary. My amendment motion is that it would say along the full length of the southern, and we would add and eastern bracket Freestone bracket boundary. Southern, the southern and eastern, and the southern and eastern bracket Freestone bracket boundary. Okay, so I have moved that amendment motion. Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Bartley. In speaking for this amendment, when looking at the map of the new proposed Lot 6 and the operating dairy across Freestone Road, I think that amending that condition to increase the covenant is more in compliance with our planning scheme to ensure that there's no conflict between the uses. Does anyone else want to speak for or against the amendment? Yes, Councillor Bartley.
I'm speaking for the amendment, Madam Mayor. Sometimes I wonder if it's really surplus to requirements, given that in the report it said 60 metres off all side boundaries, as per the current planning scheme. And that's what we do. If anyone puts out how it wants to, and we shouldn't even be considering it on the fact that there is going to be a dwelling constructed. That was the opening part of this report originally. We're considering it on a realignment of boundaries. But inevitably, we can't control what will happen to it if it meets the planning scheme requirements. But it does say in the report 60 metres from all side boundaries. Well, that means all boundaries as far as I'm concerned. So really the amendment probably is a little bit, but I'm happy to endorse it. It pushed to 60 metres. It also demonstrates the value of our current 60 metre rule. And in our new planning scheme, it's proposed to go back to 20. So I hope some people might have a rethink on that now.
Does anyone want to speak against the amendment motion? Or anyone more for the amendment? And we can go back and then discuss the motion per se.
So can I just clarify what the amendment is doing? So the 60 metre setback that you're talking about is the boundary between what will be the new block of land and the neighbour, as well as 60 metres from Freestone Road
Yes.
back. That's the eastern and southern that you're talking about.
Yes. So along the Freestone Road side, 60 metres, where the dairy is across the road, and then along the adjoining boundary on that south side. So an L shape. Okay, we'll put that amendment motion to a vote. Those in favour? That's unanimous. Okay, so we have an amended motion. I'll come back to you, Councillor Richters, as the mover for the first right to speak on the motion.
Thanks, Mayor. I think this is a common sense decision. I support the recommendation that the planning staff have recommended. I think that I do agree that we need to protect the dairy next door, and particularly from the movement of cattle across Freestone Road is my primary concern in that regards. This is allowable within our planning scheme, and so that's why I'm supporting it.
Thank you. Does anyone want to speak against the motion? Anyone speaking for?
I'm sort of in between it all, Madam Mayor, meat and sandwich, because I'm of a rural background and I see the fragmentation continually occurring, and it's through realignment of boundaries. It's a preferential way of doing these things. It's happened all around me, it's happening all around our districts. It's not the best result, but we've got to live with it because it fits within state planning policy, not only our local town plan, it fits within our state policy. So really and I'm afraid the way the rural sector's going, farmers will be continuing to sell their properties lot by lot, not by farm now. It's very unusual to see a whole farm sold. They are generally parted off lot by lot, and they're valued on the number of titles you've got on our farm. So it's a sad indictment to see this happening in the rural, but it is the way it is. I can see the pros and cons for both sides of this. You could leave it at we could knock this back and leave it at 2 75-acre titles, and someone buy one, but wouldn't preclude someone building a house on that lot we're discussing and leasing off the other 55 acres in that larger portion. The demonstrated planning benefit, and that's why we can do this, is to get that larger lot on the other side of Brisbane Road. It's less likely to fall into, shall we say, a lifestyle situation with that parcel of land. And it's all alluvial land, don't get me wrong, it's all very, very productive land. It's sad to see so much productive land getting taken out of production, and that's also having an impact on our agricultural sector generally.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak to the motion? Councillor Montling?
I've just got a question. So when you go down to fencing, landscape and buffers, it says, in addition, an advisory note will also be included which states that a notifiable notation may be included in council rate systems for proposed lot 6. But it says may, it says it doesn't say it definitely will be. What makes that go in that it will be, or what is the process?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Melissa. Councillor, we're just investigating the technical way of how in the system. It's certainly the intent. We're just sort of trying to work internally about how we do that in a notation so that it is clear to a proposed purchaser of the property. I don't have any difficulty with removing the word may. We'll work out how.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Watling. Councillor Pigeon?
I just want to agree completely with Councillor Bartley's words there before, but I also want to thank the planning staff for really going above and beyond here with this one. I really do appreciate the time and effort that you guys all put into that, so thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pigeon. And I wanted to speak for the motion. This has been a very difficult one, I think, because of the desire to ensure that we protect good quality agricultural land. I agree. I want to thank the staff for the efforts that they went to, given that we had expressed the desire to ensure that as far as we could, we protected that good quality agricultural land and trying to reach an acceptable outcome here. I think for me, because the proposal reduces the number of houses that can be built, I think to that extent it does offer some additional protection. And I agree entirely with Councillor Bartley. My view on setbacks is that in rural locations they are very, very important, and I think it's ironic that we're putting back some setbacks when we were recently talking about taking them out. I think that while we can take some steps as a local government in a planning sense to protect good quality agricultural land, to me the only real protection will come from changes at state level to the Environmental Protection Act. And we are advocating to the Queensland Government to introduce right to farm protections in the Environmental Protection Act, similar to the ones that they have in New South Wales, South Australia and Tasmania. And those protections ensure that pre-existing farm uses are not caught under the noise complaints or odour complaints under the Environmental Protection Act. So this council will continue to advocate to the state government and lobby hard to get some additional protections for good quality agricultural land. Would anyone else like to speak? Yes, Deputy Mayor.
Just a comment that I just want to acknowledge the submitter and thank the submitter for taking the time to air his views and his concerns, and that we have listened and hopefully we have achieved an outcome that is going to be okay for all concerned.
Thank you. Okay, going to a vote on that one.
Mayor.
Yes, sorry, right of reply, yes.
I'd just like to draw Council's attention to PO 36, which hasn't been included in our report. And for the benefit of the council, I'll read it out. It says, reconfiguring a lot results in lots that reflect the capability and sustainability of land for agricultural and pastoral purposes. Where a site has low capability for rural purposes, lots must be larger to reflect the reduced rural capability. Reconfiguring a lot also allows for coordinated land management and results in a more sustainable use of the rural land resource, which goes to what everyone has been talking about, particularly Councillor Barley, but I'd just like to point everyone to the next part of that, which says, except where new lots result from the rearranging of boundaries of existing lots. If this council wants to pursue the path of protecting land like this, as we have discussed now over 2 meetings, to prevent the decreasing of lot sizes and all the other things that we've talked about, then we as a council need to go back to this particular part in the planning scheme during our upcoming changes, and we need to change that specifically, because unfortunately that 3 lines in our planning scheme does not allow us any leeway in not approving the reconfiguration, because we've specifically exempted it within our planning scheme. I would just like to point out that the one big lot above now, which will result in 60 hectares, won't be able to be reconfigured. The minimum lot size for the alluvial plains and basalt uplands is 200 hectares. So that larger lot won't be able to be subdivided any smaller unless we're going to make a decision against our planning scheme. And for those purposes, I am totally in support of this application as it stands against this planning scheme. Can I just point out that yes, we have talked about amending the 60-metre setback. That I don't see how that relates to this, and I agree with the Mayor. And as I've said previously, the way that we need to approach the protection of agricultural use of land is what you've exactly said, through state policy. And I'm totally supportive of us pursuing the state government to change state policy in that regard. Unless there's, during the consultation stage of the new planning scheme, unless we can come up with another way of doing it ourselves within the planning scheme. But that's for another discussion on another day. So I commend this motion.
Thank you. Okay, all in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Moving on to item 15.2. We have a recommendation that the application for material change of use for the purpose of animal keeping, dog boarding, kennel and rescue facility up to 28 dogs on land at 214 Kerrick Road, Dalveen, described as Lot 7 SP 274061, be approved subject to conditions. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Dean, and a seconder, Councillor Richters. Thank you. I also have an amendment motion for this one. Councillor Dean, would you be happy for me to move that before we open up for discussion on the principal motion?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So I have two conditions to add to those already included in the report. One is an audit condition that the applicant is to have an annual audit prepared by a suitably qualified person auditor. Marion, I think I have the words with you, don't I? To the satisfaction of the General Manager of Planning and Environmental Services, the audit must demonstrate compliance with the conditions of this development permit on an annual basis. The results of each audit are to be submitted to Council no later than 1 November each year. And a time frame condition that the use can lawfully continue to operate until 30 June 2027 in accordance with the Planning Act 2016, Section 65(2)(a)(1). Note, prior to this date, the applicant may lodge with Council free of charge a change application in accordance with the Planning Act 2016, Part 5, Division 2. In deciding this request and reviewing conditions of approval, Council will consider the level of compliance with the conditions of this approval and the scale and nature of any complaints received, which in the opinion of an authorised person is not frivolous, vexatious, nor based on mistaken belief. Do I have a seconder for my amendment motion? Councillor Windle, thank you. Just to speak to the amendments, I think that my main concern is principally around compliance, and what I don't want to see here is either compliance being pushed onto neighbours or compliance being serious compliance having to be done by council at the cost of ratepayers rather than moving more of that onto the applicant themselves for a use that has a high level of compliance monitoring by council. That's probably all I want to say about the amendment. Does Councillor
Just a clarifying question, Mayor. Where you say the results of each audit are to be submitted to council, is that to council officers or to a meeting of council?
To council officers.
We just include council officers in there?
Yep.
Just to make it clear that it doesn't need to come back to a council meeting.
Yep. Okay. So voting on that amendment, sorry.
Just check, are they at the end, vote conditions at the very end?
Yes.
I
think is up
sorry,
to the
Mayor, what I
planning
would
staff,
recommend is that we add them as new conditions number 36 and 37, so that they're in the amenity and environmental controls conditions, and that would result in the renumbering of the subsequent conditions.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Those in favour of the amendment motion? That's unanimous, thank you. Okay, I will go back to the original motion and allow the mover, Councillor Dean, to speak first.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to thank the staff for working tirelessly on coming up with these conditions, because I do believe that this is a touchy subject and it is tricky to try and make all parties happy, but I believe that they have done their best to make this a somewhat appropriate, have good conditions on where the family can start their family business. So I appreciate the amendments that have been made as well, and I support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Dean. I'm going to speak against the motion. To me, the dogs are allowed to be outside between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. 7 days a week, and I can't see in the application any buffering or noise attenuation of the outdoor runs. Council has had noise complaints from a smaller number of dogs on the property, and it's hard to see how increasing the number with no noise mitigation would be able to comply with the condition proposed by Council, being a limit of 5 decibels above background levels. The noise impact assessment, the noise impact report, in my view, did not address the issue of the outdoor noise, and it did not make any recommendations as to how it would be possible to mitigate noise impacts. The report focused on compliance of the indoor facility and did not, to my satisfaction, address the outdoor runs. I don't want to see the applicant making a significant investment in a facility only for it to be subject to compliance activity from day one. I think it's only fair to have regard to whether it would be possible for the applicant to comply with the noise conditions imposed by council. A facility with outdoor runs that are not buffered with noise mitigation in a rural area does not, in my opinion, comply with Land Use Strategy 3.6.2 of the Planning Scheme's strategic framework. Our region is seeing significant investment in rural tourism, both by dedicated operators and by farmers seeking to diversify their on-farm income. Maintaining the character and scenic amenity of the rural zone is critical for this growing sector, which results in economic benefits across the whole region. I do not think that the development complies with Performance Outcome 6 of the Rural Zone Code because the design does not minimise noise in the outdoor runs, and I think that it does not comply with Acceptable Outcome 4.4 of the Animal Keeping Code. Do we have another councillor speaking for? Councillor Richters.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Like Councillor Dean, I appreciate that this is a touchy subject and that it has emotion built into it from both sides, and I just want to acknowledge the submitters who have taken the time to be part of the process and to be part of our considerations. I think that the conditions that the council officers have put on this are not just things that are I guess made up. They are conditions that are well known. They are conditions that have been even the result of P&E court actions that we've had lessons learnt from. And I'd just like to remind councillors that a like application for a kennel in a much more populated area was approved by this council, was challenged in the P&E court, and the court opposed some additional conditions but did not overturn our decision. So I appreciate that kennels can be divisive. If not in the rural zone, I would say where, because if the rural zone is not the zone for people to start businesses like dog keeping, then where, I would say. Where is the appropriate place within our planning scheme for that to happen? And I would say there is no other place. So I thank you, Mayor, for putting in the additional changes today. I think they are common sense conditions that allow for us to review this later down the track earlier than what may have otherwise happened, and also provide some surety to both sides of this argument about what would happen in the event that something needed to change down the track. But as it stands right now, I think our staff have done the due diligence. They know what they're talking about, and that's why I'm supporting their approval of the application.
Thank you. And any more against? Councillor Bartley.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Again, along the lines of, and particularly strategic framework 3.6.2, it does say 3.6.2 by point one, specific outcomes. Potential conflict between rural use and other land use activities is minimised by location design and management of potentially conflicting uses. And then it goes on to 3.6.22, land use strategies, and this is the one that's a bit of a hard one to meet. The character and social cohesion and scenic amenity of rural production areas is, and that's what it says, is protected from development that may impact negatively on these values. To me, it hasn't been demonstrated that that can be achieved, particularly with the sound report. That one was important because if you, and you read there, they have 60 metres from every boundary. They've got the setbacks, 350 metres from the subject site to the nearest dwelling. But if you live in the rural, you know how dogs, barks travel. You can hear your neighbours from a kilometre away. I can. On a clear night, no problem whatsoever. In an urban environment, one dog in the block starts barking, the whole lot go. And I think as a council, we deal with a lot of dog complaints, urban, and we deal with a lot rural as well. It forms a major part of our compliance situation in council. So you need to mitigate these things properly. Otherwise, we'll be dealing with more complaints, as you said, Madam Mayor, and I don't think it's been suitably addressed with the sound report, and that is the clincher for me.
Thank you, Councillor Bartley. Anyone else speaking for the motion? No. Anyone else want to speak against the motion?
Yep.
Councillor Wandling.
A facility housing 28 dogs, even if not intensive, can significantly impact residential amenity, noise, odour, visual impacts, which conflicts with maintaining the scenic and community character of rural Dalveen. Kerrick Road is unsealed, and while the report claims it can cater for expected traffic, wear and tear with commercial use on this rural road will happen. So I'll be voting against it.
Thank you, Councillor Wandling. Anyone else to speak? In that case, I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? Councillors Dean and Richters. And those against? Councillors McDonald, Wandling, Bartley, Pigeon, Haslett, Windle and Hamilton. Thank you. Moving on to item 15.3.
Point of order, Madam Mayor. A motion lost to approve an application is not a refusal, and if the council intends to refuse the application, there needs to be a motion to refuse the application, giving the planning reasons.
Sorry, you'd like some planning reasons drafted?
No, well, I gave the planning reasons,
Yes.
but we haven't in the past done a separate motion to refuse. We've actually just passed those reasons on to the staff. But Councillor
Yes.
Richters is suggesting we need to do a motion, is that correct?
That's not my experience.
No, I
My experience is you need to have the reasons and they need to be documented as part of,
But we don't need a separate
Yes.
motion.
but I'll defer to the CEO's knowledge on that.
No, okay. Yeah, the motion is lost and we won't move a refusal motion. The staff don't think we need that at the moment, but we can take that on notice.
Madam Mayor, you've supplied the planning reasons and they are included in the minutes.
Exactly. Okay, moving on to item 15.3, we have a recommendation that the change application for material change of use for the purpose of childcare centre, kindergarten and outside of school hours care in an existing building over 2 stages on land at 106 Glengallan Road, Warwick, described as Lot 3 RP 868 367, be approved subject to conditions. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Windle, thank you, and a seconder. Councillor Haslett, thank you. Do you want to speak to the motion, Councillor Windle?
Look, I haven't really got a lot to add. The report's very clear. My experience with daycare centres is probably limited as well. They weren't around when I had my young children, but I have had to use the facility for one of my grandchildren, and I can say that pick up and drop off is not all within one time. Like, it's not like school hours where school's in between 8:30 and 9 and out at 3. This will be staggered. They're not going to, there won't be, to my liking, there won't be a lot of traffic going in at the same time. So I think it will be definitely staggered, which should help to ease some of that traffic concerns that some of the submitters had. So I haven't really got a lot more to say. I think it's that there is definitely a need in the community for daycare centres. People cannot just be stay-at-home mums or dads in this day and age. We need those facilities so that we can get people out into the workforce.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Windle. Does anyone want to speak against the motion? No. Does anyone else want to speak for the motion? Councillor Haslett?
Similar to what Deputy Mayor Cheryl was saying, we need more daycare facilities, and this is currently an education facility, so I don't see it as a huge change of use. It's a small one, but not a big one. I did just want to clarify a couple of things because I wasn't quite clear when I read the report on this, but I think this is what it means. But one was around the traffic, particularly the I guess, the in and out, the ingress and egress. In the drawings, it looks like that's a single lane entrance off Glengallan Road. And for a 45 car car park, I would have thought it would be sensible to have an in and an out in two separate lanes. And there does appear to be space there. So I think that the report says that that is what is going to be asked, but I just wanted to clarify that because it seems like an easy change to the plan. Is that what was meant in there?
Through you, Mayor, that is my understanding, but can I just confirm that with the manager? I will confess I have focused on the other two applications in terms of detail, rather than this one, and I've just got her making.
Certainly. Also, there's a second question.
Unless you know the answer, Nick, which I'm not assuming she'll be.
Through you, Mayor, I support what Councillor said
Yes.
from a traffic perspective, and I think that was the intention, but we should check with the manager.
Yeah.
And so a second one along those lines, but do you want to wait till she's back before?
Let me get that.
Before I ask the next
that,
one.
and I'll take that.
Yeah, happy to come back to you, Councillor Haslett, for that and a second question. In the meantime, Councillor Dean?
Yeah, so I just wanted to speak for the motion, the Deputy Mayor and Councillor Haslett were mentioning, daycare centres are in high demand at the moment, and I do believe that we need to continue on with this approval so that we can make way for the demand. So I'm going to be voting for the motion today.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Dean. Okay, we have Manager Planning here.
Shall I ask?
Sorry, can I just add, I'll just catch your breath for a second. There is a condition asking for the access to be reviewed by an RPEQ in terms of that suitability. If it can function safely, they could, that review will determine that. If it does require an in and out, then we'll look at that.
Correct. Okay. The second one that I just wanted clarification on was the storm water. There is a note in there that says there has been an increase to the impervious area over the years since the original approvals were given, and obviously that increases the stormwater runoff and can change the way that the water runs. Now, I just want to be clear because I think the report does do this, and I think that the conditions are there, but just to make sure that we are dealing with that stormwater, because I know that it is a concern in that particular area, but I assume that that is all in hand.
Through you, Mayor, yes, that is absolutely conditioned and correct.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Bartley?
I'll speak for Madam Mayor. I think it's a reasonable repurposing of a piece of land that's not being used for residential. It is probably putting it to a good use. I do share some of the submitters' concerns, but the comment in PO17 that the traffic generated by use other than residential does not significantly increase the traffic. There will be an increase no matter what, and we must be aware that Glengallan Road is a shortcut for most people in Warwick to get onto the Brisbane Road. They don't use Alexander Drive, they go straight up Glengallan Road and come out behind the service station. It's what everyone does. So you've got to be mindful that is a reason, since it's low density residential, there's reasonably high velocity traffic there when there shouldn't be. It'd be interesting to put a road counter on that road just to see how many cars use it, but 44 places, 44 extra cars a day, twice a day, depending on what times. They might not all be the same. I would compare it to the Yangan Road and the Alexander Drive one. There's a facility there on a really busy road. Yangan Road is terribly busy. It seems to work. People get in and out okay. So I've compared it to some other high traffic areas and their residential areas as well. It seems to work quite well, particularly mixed zones. People within the area may walk their children to them. We're all assuming everyone's going to drive. If the facility's there, you may have take-up of local people using it.
Councillor Pigeon?
I do agree, we do need childcare centres in the area. I was just going to make a comment on Glengallan Road. Glengallan Road, in comparison to a lot of roads in the area, is a very good road. Compared to Yangan Road is a lot wider, and that childcare facility on Yangan Road handles and Glengallan Road is a lot wider than that. So I do appreciate where people are coming from, but I see the benefits outweighing everything else in this situation.
Yes,
I'm just saying, Mayor, that I think that the, you know, I appreciate the people around who have some concerns, but I think the conditions that the staff have put on this application have sufficiently met the issues that have been raised with me anyway.
Yep, and I'd like to say, having read through all the submissions and then going through the conditions, yes, I was satisfied, particularly as to stormwater management and access, that those issues had been dealt with, and that the buffer fencing and landscaping conditions do address a number of the issues in the submissions. Is there anyone else before we go to a vote on that one? No? Okay, all in favour? That one's unanimous, thank you. We have no deputation, no confidential business items, and no general business.
I want to mention something in general business, Madam Mayor. It's not for a voting thing, but it is generally.
Okay, I'll refer you all to your standing orders that say general business has to be raised with the chair as soon as possible prior to the meeting, and no one has raised an item of general business with me. So
I was just to make comment on unfortunate incident that occurred last week in the northern part of our shire, where some activists upset some of our major employers, and it was very disappointing, to say the least, that one of our major employers, and also supports one of our major agricultural sectors, being the livestock production, were targeted in the shopping centre, in Business and Lock Street, and one at Yangam. And it's disappointing because of some of the nefarious remarks made. The locals see through it, but it doesn't set a good tone for our region. And I think we should be actively working with a lot of our major employers, particularly in those sectors that are targeted to persuade people it's not the best way to get their point across, particularly when they disrupt workers trying to get on with earning a living.
thank you, Councillor Bartley. I will now move that we.
Mayor, can I just ask if you could confer with the CEO in regards to a point that I just raised before we close the meeting?
Yeah, can I take it on notice, please?
Okay.
You happy for me to close the meeting? Yep. Okay. Councillor McDonald?
Yeah, Mayor, just further to what Councillor Bartley said.
Councillor McDonald, general business has to be raised with me before the meeting. It is to be for information only, and it is not for matters that we should be discussing with notices of motion or otherwise in council.
Well, Councillor Bartley has spoken, Madam Mayor, so I would like to be able to speak on the issue as well.
No, I'm
that simple.
I'm referring you all to your standing orders. Raise it with me beforehand next time, but general business is not an item for discussion or debate. It is for information only. The information has now been provided. It is not open for discussion or debate.
I'd like to say that I support our producers.
As do we all, and I think a press release could also be an appropriate way for us all to express information like that, particularly to the public, and I'm very supportive of that.
You're speaking to this now.
I'm trying to close the meeting, so can I move that we close the meeting at 10:10, all in favour? That's Wandling, Pigeon, Haslett, Windle, Hamilton and Dean, and those against? Any against? No, all in favour. Thank you.